So I want to talk about this show that just ended, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. It was a little bit controversial amongst a certain subset of people. I want to talk about why they were bitching, why they were wrong, and why the show was awesome. So, as I'm sure many of you already know, the Netflix series She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is a reworking of the classic 1980s toy commercial She-Ra Princess of Power. It was announced in 2018 to what initially seemed to be overwhelming praise and excitement. But the real fans knew the truth. They were furious at how they had massacred their beloved 80s classic. Although among them I keep finding accounts that were suspended. I wonder why that is. Yeah, dude, nothing says geek cred like a fold-up utility table and Wheel of Fortune for the NES. Baller. This unfortunate fellow is The Quartering. I am so sorry. And allow me to present to you the first of many videos he would make to express his righteous indignation to this disgrace that dared to call itself She-Ra. A reboot of a children's cartoon that, keep in mind, nobody had actually seen yet.
Over the weekend, there was a bit of a hubbub about the She-Ra reboot on Netflix. She-Ra, if you don't know, is He-Man's twin sister. He-Man was my jam when I was young, and She-Ra obviously not really.
Which I guess would make you the most qualified person to weigh in on this, right?
A few interesting fun facts that came out, or some images were leaked. So for those of you that don't know, this is the original She-Ra, how She-Ra probably should look.
And if anyone is going to tell us how somebody should look, it's the guy who seems to ascribe to the stranded on a desert island school of self-grooming.
Let's take a look at the original beauty from the 80s.
Please stop looking at me like that.
Three weeks later.
Oh, they really take me back.
Let's jump over to the original show. Here's some of the original art, actually featuring She-Ra, the Princess of Power. Very, very interesting show. Powerful male virility.
Yeah, that is clearly what they were going for. Powerful male virility.
Masculinity, powerful female, just female.
Can't think girl words.
Empowering is, guess the word for it. But then we saw the reboot now come out, and we notice something conspicuous. In this reboot of the 80s series, a magic sword transforms an orphan girl into warrior She-Ra, who unites a rebellion to fight against evil. Notice that it went from a princess, right?
They're not against princesses of power. It's in the name. They put it in the name.
Roll that beautiful
Princess
footage.
Princess.
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 Princess. Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess.
Princess. Princess.
Princess.
Princess. Princess.
I mean, it's probably the most used word in the series, just behind Horde, She-Ra, and the.
Because that was okay back in the 80s, femininity. You know, it was okay for women to be women. Nowadays, that's different, right? We want all of our women to be androgynous or male-like.
Okay, my dude, if there's something that this show is absolutely not lacking, it's femininity in all of its different incarnations. Women don't just come in booby and boobier.
Notice now all of a sudden she's an orphan. Why? Who knows? And then she unites a rebellion to fight against evil. So basically nothing like She-Ra at all. And other than she has a sword.
Well, I mean, she's an orphan because they couldn't connect it to the Masters of the Universe franchise. I mean, other than that, both shows have the same basic premise. Adora grows up in the Horde under Hordak. She meets someone who tells her the truth about her upbringing. She struggles to believe it, gets a magic sword, and becomes She-Ra. She grows up in the Horde under Hordak, meets someone who tells her the truth about her upbringing. She struggles to believe it, gets a magic sword, and becomes She-Ra. That's She-Ra. I mean, other than a few minor details, the broad strokes are basically identical. I mean, yeah, granted he hadn't seen the show yet, but counterpoint. He hadn't seen the show yet! But then we get to the meat of the issue. The breast meat. Oh God, why did I write that? And why am I recording it? Yeah, as I'm sure you're shocked to discover, she's just not buxom enough. That is the question now, isn't it, the cartoon loon? Where the hell is her boobs? Where is they? Because I grade my children's cartoons by the cup size.
I don't know if you notice anything here, but that's a man.
No, that's a young girl.
That's a man.
No, that's a young girl.
That is She-Ra's body?
Sadness.
Look, it's not like dudes are out there trying to, jerk off to a cartoon.
I'm gonna tell him.
Don't you dare.
I mean, for a guy who's supposedly not trying to jerk off to a cartoon, you seem awfully concerned with her proportions.
This is a boy. It's an androgynous male lesbian character. But you wonder what little girls, if they are viewing this and it's sold to them as like this female empowerment thing and all that, what do they have to look up to?
No, you can only feel empowered on my terms.
In some ways, I'm pretty progressive, and others, I guess you would consider me more traditional in that what happened to having powerful, strong, and beautiful? Why must they all be gross?
Careful there, Tiger. Save some forward thinking for the rest of us. And shortly after, he goes on to rate the showrunner and then say this.
I get it. Now, I'm not saying I think she's cute, but is it any surprise that a boyish-looking lesbian takes this and turns it into this?
But Captain Charisma here clearly wasn't alone in his fight for true feminine justice. Dude, it's a comb. Do you need me to send you one? They got him on Amazon. And now allow me to introduce to you one angry gamer. Oh, he's gonna be my friend. He runs a not at all disturbing website that has posts like, Netflix openly admits to promoting the gay agenda. And the Eternals Faustos will be in a gay marriage and kiss a gay Muslim. Oh, you think that's a bad thing? That's a horrible way to market a film because you've instantaneously extirpated your entire core demographic. Oh, you mean like the core demographic of planet Earth? Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, but these little art house films have been a modest success. But Marvel doesn't care at this point. It's no longer about making money, it's about shoving propaganda down your throat. It's no longer about making money. But this video is about She-Ra. So what did Hissy Fit Gamer have to say on the subject? Well, there's your standard whining about how Adora is supposedly too masculine, or at least not feminine enough, and Spinnerella isn't a size 0, so that's somehow a controversy? Complete with the obligatory fat person fart joke. Do you get it? Do you get it? Oh, and just so we're clear on this, she's way better in the new show.
Seriously? It's in the name. Net. Tossa? Nets. I toss nets, okay? Yes, darling, you have beautiful nets.
In the original, she was basically just the Tasmanian devil. And on that note, let's take a quick look at this revered classic.
What's she doing?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
Is this part of the
a circus act? Something's wrong here.
Oh, Adora! The grabber's got you, too.
That's right, Sparklehead.
Razzle dazzle, brizzle beak. Time for you to be a sheep. Oh, dearie my. I meant for them to fall asleep, not become sheep.
There's something wrong. Peekaboo would never help Hordak. What have you done to her, you beast?
Sorry I can't stay, fellas. Just go ahead and continue your exercise without me.
Sven, my locket is glowing. Adora must be in trouble. Let's go. Head north, full speed.
No, not us. Them. Put me down.
Well, roll me on the beach and call me Sandy.
Untouchable treasure. But you know, it's a silly 80s show. It's a thing of its time and that's fine. But in reworking it, they were able to make something a lot more interesting.
For example, one thing that clearly rubbed these guys the wrong way was how the characters were redesigned. But look at this. Have you noticed something yet? Yeah, they all basically look identical, and this is likely so that they could reuse the toy molds when making the dolls and action figures, but now let's compare to the 2018 reboot and the much more diverse and interesting to look at cast of characters. They all come in different shapes and sizes. Like people do. Of course, that's not the only aspect that's improved. There's the story, characterization, character growth, writing, complexity, stakes, pathos, an actually threatening villain, and the goddamn theme song, Fucking Fight Me!
But there are two specific headlines of his that I would like to address. First,
She-Ra's voice actor applauds villain for being respectful and using proper pronouns. Now, this is with regard to the character Double Trouble, who's both played by a non-binary actor and is non-binary conforming within the show. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power continues to lead the way as the progressive liberals poster child for propaganda. The latest hoopla centers around one of the new voice actors praising the writers for making the main villain respectful of a non-binary shapeshifter's pronouns. Seriously. Yeah. Pink News is reporting that the new cast member for Season 4 of the show, Jacob Tobia, recently spoke to the LA Times about how socially conscious the main villain is in She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, even going so far as to respect the pronouns of a non-binary shapeshifter that Tobia voices named Double Trouble. Quoting Tobia,
She-Ra is built for a generation that doesn't need that kind of education in the same way anymore. Young people in Generation Z know who non-binary people are. They know they and them pronouns. They know that gender is a spectrum, not a binary. The thing that was really gratifying in a very surprising way for me is the scene where Hordak talks about Double Trouble and just says they effortlessly with no thought and just uses the gender-neutral pronoun.
That makes Hordak a cultural cuckold. He's literally allowing perpetually offended liberals ravage his culture and dictate to him how he should behave within a society he supposedly built. The only other alternative is that Hordak is actually a liberal, at which point perhaps the creators are trying to tell us something about
liberal villainy.
Okay. You're missing the point, but we can come back to that. Do you really think it would have been better for Hordak to say,
I know Double Trouble wants to be referred to with non-binary pronouns, but since I'm evil, I'll call him anything I want.
Beast.
Now wouldn't that have been an awkward way for them to push their message? And it would have completely defeated the purpose. Angry. Sweetheart, the point that they were trying to make, the one that went completely over your head, is that in the world of She-Ra, gender and sexuality are not things that need to be remarked upon. Hordak wouldn't have thought to misgender Double Trouble any more than I would have thought to maliciously call you Alan. It simply does not come up because it's as mundane as any other aspect of the character. It is literally unremarkable.
Plus, as the villain of the show, he has other things on his mind and other things to worry about.
Unlike some people.
He goes on to say... Oh shit, what was the voice I was using again? So first of all, there's no such thing as a non-binary person. That biologically does not exist. It scientifically is not recognized. There is no genetic strand for non-binary people. It's a made-up thing by people who need some serious psychological help. Which proves that he doesn't understand the difference between sex and gender. According to the American Psychological Association,
sex is assigned at birth, refers to one's biological status as either male or female, and is associated primarily with physical attributes such as chromosomes, hormone prevalence, and external and internal anatomy. Gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for boys and men or girls and women.
So, pointing out that there's no biological basis for non-binary gender kind of betrays your ignorance on the subject. Gender is a cultural and social construct. Non-binary people do not fit neatly into either slot of male or female and thus generally don't wish to be referred to as either. You can learn about the topics of sex and gender and the current academic consensus here and on many other places at the APA's website. Because if you're gonna cite science, you better bring it, bitch! And finally... Netflix She-Ra and the Princesses of Power turned She-Ra into a lesbian. I warned you all before, and now Netflix and DreamWorks went and did it. Yet another classic heroine turned gay. This time it's Adora, better known as She-Ra. In the final season of the Netflix show, Catherine and She-Ra were turned into full-blown lesbians and forced by the creators to profess their love for one another. I mean, I don't know if they were forced. They both seemed pretty into it. As well as share an intimate kiss in order to save the universe. The She-Ra you loved and grew up with is no more. She's dead and gone.
No, dude, good news. She's right here. You can watch this. You can watch the show. Look, I found her. I found her.
Okay, so I was going to do this next part in the goofy voice or one of the goofy voices, but due to the subject matter, it doesn't seem right, so here goes. Netflix already admitted to pushing the gay agenda, and a bunch of mega corporations joined in to support them, including Amazon. We've always warned you that they were coming for your kids. They want to inculcate your children with the gay agenda so that it's easier for them to physically groom your younglings once the bunghole Bolsheviks normalize maps and then legalize pedophilia.
Okay, stop. Just fucking stop. There's no slippery slope argument from going from pro-gay representation to normalizing child rape. That's not a thing. And no amount of right-wing craziness will ever make it so. And that's all I'm going to say on the subject, because go fuck yourself.
He then says something about how we claim that there's no left-wing agenda.
When did we ever say that? No, the gay agenda's real, bitch. And I'm gonna divulge it here, exclusively in this video. Are you ready to be shocked? It's for LGBT people to live their lives just like everyone else, to love who they want without prejudice, and to be who they are without fear of violence or oppression. Sick, I know.
Why am I even bringing this up? He's just one jackass who's spewing mindless hate on the internet. Well, the problem is, he's not alone in all of this. Like with any group whose privilege is challenged, they're getting scared. Real change is possible, and to achieve that for us and for future generations, proper and consistent representation matters. So to all the anti-social justice types out there, I mean, you probably didn't click on this video anyway, and if you did, you
definitely didn't get this far. Nobody is telling you that you can't be whatever version of manly or womanly suits you best. Go full lumberjack for all we care, or you could dress in frilly pink dresses all day long. Or do none of it, because at the end of the day, social norms are entirely artificial. What matters is that you get to be yourself, and that you let other people be themselves without scorn or ridicule, or worse. Nobody is trying to take your masculinity or femininity away from you, but you don't get to define masculinity, femininity, or anything in between for anyone else. And the same obviously goes for sexuality. For so long, straight people have had a complete monopoly on love stories. And those love stories aren't wrong. Nobody's trying to erase heterosexual love because it's a beautiful thing. But those being the de facto only examples creates the unconscious notion that being straight is the default and any other love is secondary or abnormal, that it's a deviation from what is standard. Now, I'm not saying that this was a conscious choice by the people who wrote these films, books, plays, etc., but conscious or not, that's the effect that it has on the popular culture and the youth that grow up within that culture. Straight kids learn that they're able to be themselves and love whoever they want, while LGBT or questioning youth may come away feeling that they're deviant or immoral. They may not even understand what it is to be gay or why they feel so different. But you don't have to take my word for it.
My name is Noelle Stevenson. I am the executive producer and showrunner of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. So actually growing up, I did not know any gay people, and I didn't actually really even know what a gay person was until much later in my life. It was really interesting because I didn't even know it was an option, because I didn't see it modeled in any way. I was protected from any media that would ever portray it in a positive way. I definitely knew that I felt different from the people around me, and I wasn't sure what that was. She-Ra was an incredibly important part of the journey for me, and so what I wanted to do with She-Ra was to sort of strip away the presumptions of who these characters would be, to strip away any presumption that they would be straight or heteronormative in any way, that these characters could be almost anything and it would fit in this world, that all of it was accepted. And seeing not just the characters flourish in that, but the crew as well, and see themselves through the eyes of those characters and see themselves in those characters' footsteps, that was an incredibly powerful experience. And that was when I started to be able to put into words my own orientation and my own gender expression. It was a very powerful experience, and it did seem to be very tied together.
And while there's a time and a place to actively discuss marginalization, sometimes you just need to show that people like this exist and that it's just as normal as anything else. Because in the world of this show, Double Trouble is just non-binary, and Catra simply has always loved Adora, and Adora loves her. They fell for each other, and that's wonderful. I mean, except when she's trying to kill her for most of the show, but the best love stories are often complicated. Who doesn't love a little conflict, huh? And for a kid's show to be able to pull that sort of representation so effortlessly and so flawlessly is one of the things that makes this show important. So to anyone who takes issue with anything that I've said here, we're not going anywhere no matter how uncomfortable that makes you. So you better get used to it or get ready to be really angry. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, cartoons are awesome, especially when they're really gay. Oh, in the He-Man reboot? Let's give Prince Adam a boyfriend.